Hello. Today I will cover an interesting detail on the lighting industry and perhaps one that some of you are not aware. This is not going to be a review about this particular product, but I will show you some interesting details that pertain to this product and others that are still released on the market. It's not going to be more about the technology, but the state of the manufacturer or the brand, if you would like to consider it better. So, first of all, um, let me tell you something about Philips in short. You can find many details and historical aspects about Philips. Philips is a Dutch company that has had a long history of manufacturing products for lighting purposes. Many of its products have been well known in the world for more than 120 years. Unfortunately, market changes that happened after 2000 and in my opinion also some aspects pertaining to the management inside of Philips, but we don't have to get too much into that because ultimately we don't have clear information on what actually happened. We have only various suppositions. But ultimately what happened is that Philips sold the lighting division. Philips actually sold the majority stake in just about any lighting endeavor they had. Lumileds, which was an important part of Philips' strategy in lighting, creating high quality lamps, has been sold. The Philips lighting division eventually was sold for quite a large amount of money in millions of dollars to a private holding group. Why this is important? First of all, because I think that right now not much about the brand matters as it did some years ago. And I think this is the first important aspect you should be considering, the fact that buying a Philips product is no longer a guarantee of receiving a definite quality, knowing about all the details that have been present in the market for so many years. So if there is something like nostalgia, I think that this should be properly handled. Because the Philips of today is not the Philips we knew for so many decades for historical reasons. Alright, so first of all, let me show you the particular detail I wanted to on the product. Over here you notice the current logo style or branding style of Philips. However, things get overly, let's say, strange when you are looking at this particular logo. This logo has been used by Philips, I think, up until the early 90s. This logo actually is a historical one that presented more details, such as the waves that are from Philips radio technology, the stars that are for lighting products, and the rest of the logo that is being presented as such. But this is an old logo. You may wonder why use the current logo and the old logo. Probably the only reason why Philips agreed this and the holding group considered it necessary was because the product could not differentiate enough on the market. This is actually very interesting because the problem of differentiating on the market was an issue even before Philips actually sold the lighting division. We have to think that by 2015, when Philips managed to solve the lighting division, there were many details that were not going in Philips' favor. For instance, many manufacturers that release product using the manufacturing capability in China were facing very strong competition, not only for the large brands like General Electric and OSA, but also through various Chinese brands. And the quality has been steadily improving for Chinese products. even for ones that were released under largely unknown brands. So Signify, because this is the holding group that bought the license, as you can see over here. We are not talking about a particularly recent product. This one was manufactured in 2020, but still the issue stands in a very important aspect. You can see the Signify holding details. It's based in Netherlands, and it actually is the one that released this product. So as you can see over here, nothing about the product actually pertains to the Philips brand. It's just the fact that it's being sold that way in order to have greater market acceptance. I would like to mention something else interesting about Signify. Well, Signify initially agreed with Philips, or hoped that by 2019 they would be able to get rid of the Philips branding they apply to products and move it to Signify. But obviously Signify has not been able to create a name of itself, or to create enough of a splash, to create enough of an impression to to clients, so that they could switch and use their own brands in this way. It's actually important to consider that Philips is not alone in selling the lighting division. Osram did so as well, but this will be covered in a different video. For the moment, what matters the most is that these products are no longer reflecting the Philips brand, and you should be aware of that. But I would also like to cover another detail, very interesting. So, going further, I think it's appropriate to consider why Philips made this decision. Of course, even if we do not have access to the actual agreement that was being signed and to many other details. We have to consider, first of all, as I mentioned, that the lighting products market was very crowded. And this happened for two reasons. First of all, the barriers of entry have been severely reduced since there was a large synergy of technology that centered around semiconductor products. So the LEDs themselves are very easy to manufacture in large quantities, and if you have a good semiconductor production facility in your country, and China has tons of it, then it means that you can be highly competitive on the market. You just need to create a good product packaging, and this includes glass or plastic, and mostly have a good marketing, and that's it. You can release a product. On the other hand, with previous lighting products, you had to have extensive research and development money poured in, and you would have to be able to supply various components to other products. We have to understand how the lighting industry actually worked. And this is a very interesting fact. Of course, I do not have enough information, but as far as I can tell, there was a major change that happened, let's say, around the end of 1970s. Many manufacturers some decades ago built products just for themselves. However, because development costs became higher due to the advance in technology, it meant that in order to recoup some of the initial investments, they had to make sure that they could be selling more of their components and have better production line use, by ensuring various other manufacturers which did not have the production capability could produce lighting products at their facilities. And this meant that even before 2000, a lot of production was not only for the well-known brands, but also for smaller brands that did not have the production facility available, yet they were using various components being supplied by Philips or Osram or others. Well, I think that this is very important for Philips and General Electric. With Osram, I'm not entirely sure this occurred, actually Siemens, because Osram is just name brand of Siemens. But ultimately, what matters is that this is how the market worked. And when we consider so many details about how products were being released and how they were made successful, this matters a lot because you have to invest money in order to improve manufacturing every, let's say, 10 years. Actually, the time between investments differs a lot based on technology. However, the important fact was that most of these facilities were being made for a large turnaround. So many lamps that have to be manufactured all at once. And a major difference before 2010 is that most of these lamps were actually incandescent lamps. The bulb ban that happened severely affected the industry but was not discussed as much because you have a product that has an estimated lifetime of around 1,000 hours. This product has to be replaced at least once a year. So just about any lamp in your house had to be replaced around that time. When you're going to completely remove such a product from the market, and just about all the lamps that are being sold are no longer lamps that have such a short lifetime. I mean, you have lamps that reliably go at least 6,000 hours. You're already creating a market that is very different. Of course, some of these lamps fail prematurely, but what matters the most is that you're not having a product that has to be sold in very high quantities. And when you don't have that product, some of the economies of scale that have been part of your economy, of course we are talking about the manufacturer itself, are going to change. Another very important aspect covers the LEDs themselves. And why? Because this technology can be easily adapted to just about any marketing purpose. So you can sell lamps for consumers, you can sell lamps for government, whether it's local or national government, for various services that are being provided, and you can sell lamps as these for special purpose applications, for studio lighting. So you can cover just about any product just by having one that incorporates LEDs with different levels of quality, with different technological features, but ultimately the same LEDs. So this changed a lot the market in very interesting ways, because it meant that products could no longer be sold easily with higher up marks. And another very important detail is the fact that those lamps did not need to be replaced as quickly as they were. We have to think that in some special markets, like lamps used for broadcasting or studio lighting, you had sometimes lives that were less than 100 hours. And this meant a lot because such products could be easily sold for large amounts of money, so with good profits, and they were a stable market. On the other hand, with most products that have been trending towards lower and lower costs, and of course this being driven also by the market that asks for such products and right now could be having reasonable performance without resorting to these previously expensive lamps, this meant that the market was drying up. And also just about any sort of public lighting, because ultimately I wanted to cover also this, went into a different direction. Previously, metal halide lamps have been quite expensive and could only be purchased by various public lighting operators that had to reach a certain level of quality asked by the local governments. And Philips had a lot of money coming from public entities that entrusted Philips to offer the service of designing a lighting system. And this frequently meant that lamps that were offering a greater light quality and also cost a lot more were being sold. And they were not being sold by themselves, they were being sold in a system that had various costs that had to be covered along the years due to maintenance requirements. With LEDs, basically, you can go for 5 to 7 years with no maintenance. With a traditional lighting system, you will have at least at around 4 years lamp replacement cycle. Sometimes it was even less than that, but at least 4 years. This was the market essential, let's say, guideline. So ultimately, with these markets that were reduced in scope and size, Philips and other manufacturers considered that selling their lighting division would be a way to reduce losses. I still think that this was a mistake because ultimately we have very good examples in the semiconductor manufacturing industry, and particularly the high-profile one that includes processors. For instance, I will tell the names AMD, that has sold the manufacturing plants that were previously being used and has been creating designs of their own that were cheap to make and that they were, let's say, highly flexible in the sense that they could be manufactured in various plants. And I think this was the correct approach, but probably Philips did not want to invest in this. And I will also give you a reason why I think Philips made this decision. Trying to invest in a new approach to lighting products manufacturing would have taken some time and would require massive changes that have to be implemented. And I think that Philips did not want to do that anymore. Philips has a history of getting rid of various divisions when things get slightly uncomfortable without thinking too much about restructuring them and finding a way to be competitive. We have to remember that in the 70s, Philips had quite a strong production facility for electronical components. And this meant that they had an advantage back then. Of course, they sold the electronics components plants and they became fabless, which is a term which means that they do not have manufacturing plants for these products anymore. Later, they tried to sell, for instance, TV sets, LCD TV sets, and they did not have any more interest when the market became overly competitive and of course profits dwindled. However, there is a very interesting aspect that I think covers very well what happened in the last almost 30 years. Philips had a lot of success in selling medical equipment. And selling medical equipment was the bread and butter of Philips profits, besides the consumer products that are being sold for, let's say, various ranges of products. But what matters is that the profits being afforded through the medical industry have been highly important. And I think this is the reason why Philips can go so easily and set aside any sort of investment they think it doesn't perform well without having any sort of let's say constraint about what to do any longer. So I think this is the basic reason why Philips chose to do as such. They had a lot of profits from other avenues and they did not mind what happens here. We can talk about a lot on how fair the medical products industry is, because ultimately healthcare is an area that is severely distorted through various subsidies and other schemes that cover certain costs. So ultimately, I don't think that profits would have been as high if the market was truly what it should have been. But anyway, this is the current situation. So with Philips and General Electric and other manufacturers that have various income streams that do not come from the lighting itself, I think it was quite clear that what ultimately would happen is that those products are going to be not manufactured by them anymore. They will just sell the intellectual property. In this case, I hardly doubt that it's the intellectual property. It's more just a marketing way that ensures products are still going to be sold. Of course, Philips did not sell, or at least I do not know if they sold completely all the assets. So probably they still hold a minority stake even now. I have not been seeing details showing otherwise. So they will still rake in some of the profits coming from the division, but anyway, all decisions are not going to be taken by Philips anymore. So it's about Signify. So I think this just about covers all the details you should be considering about Philips, their products in this case, and why you should be aware that they are no longer actual Philips products. They are just being sold with the Philips name. So I hope you found this video interesting, and if you do so, please subscribe to the channel. There are many other videos that are going to be released. Perhaps the scheduling is not going to be great in the next couple of days, but however, I still have many aspects I would like to share, and clearly laptops and previously information technology products are not going to be left aside. I'm just covering a wider array of ideas and concepts that I think would be useful to know. So thank you very much for watching and have a great day.